was also a huge game at the Emirates, where Arsenal have managed to drop points as well, and that was less enthusiastic, less enjoyable, and ultimately Arsenal fans feel very, very unhappy. They couldn't find their moment of magic. They were really, really struggling. And ultimately, Everton were just too resolute, too organised, too stubborn, and there was no way through. There is a major problem for Arsenal because they are so reliant on the brilliance of Bukayo Saka that nobody else is pulling their weight. And it means that we have to ask the question, can you realistically win the league if Kai Havertz is your number 9? Can you realistically win the league if you are relying on goals from Gabriel Martinelli? I feel that it's so easy to defend against Arsenal when Martinelli isn't pulling his weight and there's nobody really operating through the middle. You can double up on Bukayo Saka, and if you nullify Saka, you probably nullify Arsenal. It really is that simple. So I think Mikel Arteta needs to sort this out. He potentially needs to dive into the transfer market in January because they are a Rizla paper away from their title challenge slipping out of action altogether. We're going to speak to Andy, the Arsenal fan. Andy, do you agree? Are you still in the title race or has it gone too far?
I think you got it half right, but not completely. So the problem is we're much more reliant on Odegaard than we are on Saka. And to that extent, our creativity stops if Odegaard's not playing or he's injured or he's off form. Saka's, world-class. He'd walk into Real Madrid, any side in the world. And that's where it ends, Rory. That's our problem.
What, you're just so heavily reliant on Martin Odegaard?
Odegaard is the only creative player in the side. He's the only one who takes ball in half-turn, unlocks defences. He's a bit like a souped-up, brilliant version of Smith Rowe who's gone, or Jack Wilshere back in the day, but again, a much better version, and that's it.
This is interesting, though, Andy. Can I ask you a question here regarding your transfer policy, and ultimately, is Mikel Arteta responsible for this issue? When Martin Odegaard is out, you don't have anybody to come in.
That's right.
So you let Smith Rowe go, you let Fabio Vieira go. Should you have, rather than signing Mikel Merino, for example, should you have signed a more creative central midfielder?
Well, there's no question about that. As far as the responsibility is concerned, Edu, without any shadow of a doubt, was the primary point of contact for agents and players coming in. And I'm afraid the Spanish connection that Edu and that Arteta have blinded them somewhat. There have been players, I think, that possibly slipped through the net. We've made do with relatively mediocrity, which will probably buy us top 4, top 2 the last 2 seasons. But that's, I'm afraid, as far as it's going to go. Kai Havertz was signed, and I said to my mates, please, don't let it be signed as a centre forward, because you look around the side and you think, who's going to play centre forward? And it turned out to be Havertz. That's a disaster. Trossard is like, the old fox in the box.
I rate Trossard, though, Andy. Like, Trossard seems, particularly last season, he seemed to really come up clutch. When you needed a goal most, Leandro Trossard seemed to have one waiting for you.
It's all relative, isn't it? If you put Trossard with a really top centre forward, something like Haaland or something, you probably get you 20, 25 goals a season. But I'm afraid he's going to pick up pieces. Yeah, he's a decent player. He will pick up goals for us. But the overall point is 2 things, Rory. One, we need that creative spark in the midfield other than Odegaard, or to complement Odegaard. And we 100% need somebody up front who's going to help Saka, bring Saka on, and that Saka can play off or supply the ball to as well up front. And I think that's where we're short. Unless that changes, we are not going to go on. We are not going to beat sides like Everton, who put up really, really tough defence. Even at the Emirates, we're going to struggle, and that's been the case for the last 3 years. When push comes to shove, we just come up a bit short.
I think I agree with you, Andy. Just before you go, can I ask you one very quick question?
Yeah.
Do you take your playmaker off with half an hour to go? Is that a good decision from the manager?
Look, he came off, and everyone's saying he was injured. Whether that's true or not, because there can be no other reason for it.
Okay. Well,
there can't be.
There can be. I think that's quite a generous answer, Andy. I think there can be There can be mismanagement. There can be a poor decision from Mikel Arteta. It can have got it wrong. Is that not a possibility?
Well, let's put it this way. If that is the reason, then that's a disastrous error of judgment. It is possible, but we can't understand it if that's the case.
Fair enough. Andy, that's an excellent call. I really do appreciate it. We're now going to go to Jonathan, the Arsenal fan. Jonathan, do you agree with that? What's your take on Mikel Arteta's decision to remove Martin Odegaard when you desperately needed a goal at home to a stubborn Everton team?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was a wrong decision to do because I think, firstly, the whole reason we've got rid of Fabio Vieira, Emil Smith-Rowe, is so that Ethan Neri can come through and play more minutes. He hasn't played enough minutes yet, but when he has come on, he scored a goal. You've seen that in the other games. But I was there. I sit there and I shout at him every single game, like, you're going to do amazing when you come on. You go for it. Today, he didn't have any confidence. He barely got any ball because they didn't trust him. There's no link-up play between him and Saka at the moment. There's no connection. When Saka and Odegaard are together, you see Saka do the 1-2 into Odegaard. He'll lift it at the top or switch it round. Take off Odegaard, we didn't have that loss. And I think it was the Marino that came off, or was it Rice that came off? I think Rice came off injured.
Yeah, Rice. Rice and Marino both went off. But then, this is what baffled me. You're chasing a game, you need a goal, and you bring on Jorginho.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think there was quite like a catalogue of errors, really. I think Jorginho gives a bit of temperament, but why would you put Partey in at right back? I thought Miles was playing well to me, so I thought he was driving. Like, I know he's a young kid. Put Partey in instead of Jorginho and keep on Odegaard. He's the only one that will give us something.
Jonathan, I think Thomas Partey has to play as a number 6. I think Arsenal are only ever any good when Thomas Partey is playing in that number 6 position. I don't understand Mikel Arteta's reluctance to play in there and sometimes playing him at right back. There is no doubt that Arsenal are a better team when Thomas Partey is playing central midfield.
100%. And you also put Rice at number 8. Rice this season has been, I think, poor. I think he's not got the ball and driven. Last game or last Premier League at Man United, he got the ball and drove. When did you see him today turn on the half turn and drive with it? He doesn't do that because he's defensively minded. He's passing it back into the centre mid. You know, like, it's all set up. It was set up to be too defensive. And then we were chasing the game. Put on some more attackers. Like, I've never put Jesus on. Jesus, I thought,
woeful. Let's be totally honest here. Absolutely atrocious performance from Gabriel Jesus. He's not the player that you need him to be. I think that it's really poor. But what's interesting, Jonathan, and I do thank you for your call. What is interesting about what's going on at Arsenal at the moment, I think is really, really huge, is Mikel Arteta, for the first time, seems to be getting a little bit of criticism. He seems to be feeling the heat from Arsenal fans because, if we are totally honest, whatever you think of Arteta, however well you think he's done so far in the job at Arsenal, he made a pig's ear of his substitutions today. He made a pig's ear of his starting lineup today.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.